Okay, gang, howdy, hello. Good day, good first day of the week, first week of the semester, fall 26. We are back. Here we are, new class. Let's get going. Hi, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself and the class. I've already seen there's action on the website. People are posting videos. That's great. But I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the class, myself, what's going on in this space here. To say hi, to let you get familiar with my face. I am the instructor of this particular section of 104 this fall 2026. My name is Donovan Conley. I got a little welcome bit on the first few pages there, but I like to record a little intro video when I teach a class for the first time, or even if I've done it. If it's a new semester, I like to do a new video. So let's see where to begin here. The class itself is, I think, ready to roll in terms of the online rollout and things being where they need to be. But I'll just explain a little bit of the kind of context of backstory here. So this is COM 104, which is Critical Thinking and Public Argument. This is a class that we've had on our books for a number of years, and it's evolved a little bit. I was there when it was first proposed over a decade ago. We thought we could go toe-to-toe with philosophy, teaching critical thinking, try to make this a gen ed requirement, but to do it in a less formal, less abstract, less logical kind of way. So in rhetoric, we teach critical thinking from a more like practical, informal perspective. And this syllabus, this semester's topics and readings are all nicely situated in that tradition. So like I said, it's been a class that has been sort of handed off to different people, and they've kind of made it their own, and they've reworked it. And the last time I taught this was, I think, a couple of years ago, and it was a quite different class that had been developed by Rachel, a woman named Rachel, who's no longer with us. Now, more recently, David Gruber is the person who has put his stamp all over this class. I am not David Gruber. My name is Donovan Conley. We have similar initials. We have similar colored hair and skin and gender and sex and all the rest of it. So we're kind of similar, but we are not the same person. We're good buddies. We are great colleagues. We write together. We hang out together. But we are two individuals. So David Gruber is the person who created this particular version of the class and did all of the work in the online space and developed the slides and the videos. You'll see him on the screen for these periodic videos. He created the little activities. It's like all him. I have done nothing in this section of this class. I haven't done anything to change readings, topics, whatever. I am administering this section of this class this semester, but it is essentially David Gruber's class, but I'm happy to be teaching it. If I were to be creating this class, my own version, it would look very, very similar. David and I, Gruber and I, are quite similar in how we approach a lot of issues and themes, and so I'm very happy to be teaching this class this way, and I think it's a great class, and I hope you get a lot out of it. So, like I said, I was supposed to teach a different class this semester. It was supposed to be an in-person upper division capstone class on advocacy and change, but something happened and not enough students enrolled. I think we might have put it on the books too late or something like this. And so that class had to get canceled. And so pretty late into the summer, into the process, I was handed this section. And when I started looking it over, I thought, I'm perfectly content with this class the way it is. I don't need to change anything just to make it my own. So you will see everything in this class as the work of David Gruber. You will interact with me, Donovan Conley, when we're talking about assignments, or if you wanted to talk about ideas and the readings, and I hope you do. I am well versed in all of this stuff. Like I said, I would have taught a class very similar to this. I have taught classes very similar to this in different forms, whether it's argumentation or all kinds of different rhetoric classes. Frankly, this is really hitting a lot of the sweet spots. So I'm excited. I'm excited. So, the purpose of critical thinking and public argument, as I said, the original idea was let's try to compete with philosophy for the gen ed traffic around critical thinking, but do it in a way that's more user friendly, a little bit more practical. Because in philosophy, if you take a critical thinking class, a lot of it is like Venn diagrams and basically like trying to be mathematical with reasoning. At least the last time I looked at how they approached it, which was a number of years ago. I assume it's the same. By the way, this relationship and this tension between calm and philosophy, or rhetoric and philosophy, goes way back to Plato and the sophists, and it's one of the oldest kind of academic rivalries. Essentially, is like philosophers who are more interested in the abstract, and the rhetoricians who are interested in the practical and the worldly and the here and now. So the perspective that we take in this class to critical thinking and public argument is that we every day are engaging in thought and debates, and we are processing messages and processing arguments. We are making arguments. We are receiving information and messages from all different kinds of places. This is a class that really wants to kind of break things down, slow things down, and really think about how it is that we develop stronger, better, healthier reasoning practices, better practices of like symbolic interaction and all the rest of it. And so we've got stuff in here on, like what is a claim? We've got stuff on logical fallacies. And then David Gruber has put in some cool stuff later on about cognitive biases, which is like all of the stuff that kind of gets in the way of sound thinking and reasoning. We got stuff on pathos and ethos. And so this is like an introduction to some of the most important concepts and principles in the tradition of rhetoric, but not a ton of theory. It's kind of, we're dealing with Aristotle, but kind of indirectly, and that's a nice way to come at it. So this, like I said, this feels sort of like a greatest hits of like important introductory concepts in rhetoric, public argumentation, informal reasoning, and so on. And I think we have a nice selection of assignments. Let me not go too long, 7 minutes. Okay. A nice selection of assignments that are not too arduous and not too complicated. The version of this class that I taught before this one was like too much busy work, too much just like little low-level kind of things, kind of just like do this, do this. This is not asking too much in terms of like the amount of activities, but of what it is asking, it's exercising, I think, concepts, it's exercising practice, it's a little bit of fun, a little bit of play. And so hopefully, that level of introduction with these assignments will get you a good way down the line in terms of thinking about how it is you process information and how you generate arguments and generate appeals and so on. And if we can move the needle like from maybe some bad habits to slightly better habits, then we will have done well in this class. And I think we can achieve that. So I have the printed copies. Both of these, that's the syllabus, and this is the calendar. These are both on the first intro pages that you can scan through and then you can click your way to. And it's all nicely laid out. So the weekly task, the assignments, the activities. This week it's just like, hey, introduce yourself. Post a little 1 to 2 minute video answering some questions, and let's kind of get to know each other a little bit. Let's say hi. Let's see each other, and then we will proceed next week with 3 different types of claims. Standard, basic, introductory stuff. So I guess if I had any kind of like pitch or appeal in terms of how to do well in this class, how to get the most out of this class. First off, this is true of every one of your classes, is do take some time to look through the journey that you're about to undertake here and take note of the key dates, key moments, right? So like, when are things due? What are they? At least kind of mentally get yourself in the zone of like understanding kind of the shape of the journey that you're on. So in terms of assignments, we've got 5 quizzes. I think it's 5. And those are, 5 logic and argumentation quizzes, and those are 10% each. So that's 50% of your grade right there. And that's concepts and that's principles. Again, I would approach this, and I do approach this in my other classes, very, very similar. So I'm happy about that. And then we've got discussion board activities where we can be interacting with each other and ping-ponging ideas and learning and sharing, and that's all cool. We have 2 worksheets leading toward a final creative advocacy type project. Boom. Brilliant, right? So we're going from basically like, what are the components of arguments? What do we want to be aware of and thinking about when we are considering how it is that we are, sending out our ideas, when we are sort of taking stands or we are participating in dialogues and debates and whatever. What are some of the basic things that are important to keep in mind? What are the components? Where can things go wrong? Okay. So this asks you to basically try to separate your habitual thought processes. The way that we all interact with each other online on platforms is kind of like the thing that we're trying to correct from, right? Online interactions are so impulsive, they're so emotional, they're so reactive, they're so riddled with bias and ideology and affect and emotion. And these platforms and these algorithms really have maximized their ability to kind of prod us around with stuff we love and stuff we hate, but there's not a lot of nuance and middle ground, right? Here we are trying to think more calmly, more moderately, more intermittently. We're trying to find in-between spaces. We're trying to think about complexity and detail and nuance. All of these tendencies are not ones that do well in an online space, but they are still important in terms of human communication, making good arguments, right, participating in disputes and so on. So that's the goal here, is to strengthen our abilities to be advocates, community members, citizens, colleagues, and so on, to be able to see when bad arguments are being made or flimsy arguments or obviously biased arguments, right? To have a better sense of how we can create more space and more room for consideration and for give and take and so on, right? So this is part of a long and robust tradition going right back to Plato, Aristotle, Isocrates, the Romans, Cicero, Quintilian. All right, and so when we're doing stasis theory, that goes way back to ancient times. And so you're dealing with sort of the best of this very, very old tradition of ideas, principles, practices, tactics. And this stuff still matters. It still works. We still participate in these concepts and phenomenon. Sometimes worse, sometimes better. We're about making that all a little bit more explicit, a little bit more visible, and hopefully, and interesting and engaging along the way. So I think that's maybe, I don't want to talk for too long here. I haven't fully introduced myself yet. Donovan Conley. I'm an associate professor in the department. Like I said, study rhetoric. My personal approach to this stuff is materiality, food, aesthetics. Those are kind of my worlds. I'm interested in taste as a phenomenon that does so much work in terms of mediating the subject and the objective world, and in terms of how things get prioritized and valued, where things come from, trends, all kinds of stuff. That's sort of my own personal interest, and I teach some stuff along those lines. But here, I'm happy to be talking about critical approaches to public reasons and arguments and so on. I have been in this department I'm the most senior member of our comm department at this point. I've been here since 2004, so this is my 22nd year, I think. Wow, I've been here for a while. Love my colleagues, love this institution. I got a family, I got a wife, 3 kids, a granddaughter. We had her 5th birthday party at our house yesterday. We did pin the tail, we did piñata. We had lots of good fun times. I'm Canadian. I'm originally was born in Canada, but I've been in this country now actually longer than I've lived in my own home country, and I am stressed about the recent tariff trade war that just happened over the last few nights. Stressful times, but I love it here. I miss my home, but I have a family. I have a whole life here, and it's been good to me. So I am eager to meet you all and hear your ideas and hang out, and I'm here to talk with you, to help, to listen, to meet. We can do virtual office hours, of course, but I'm also going to be in my physical office on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 2 to 4 for in-person office hours. Would love it if you guys came by. Would love to see you, would love to meet you. Even if you don't have any particular reason or question, if you happen to be around, pop in, say hi, introduce yourself. Would love that. I don't get enough interaction with students, especially undergrads, anymore. I teach most of my classes online, and that's convenient, but I really miss the interactions and the connection. So would love to meet you, would love for you to say hi, stop by, let's chat. I'd love to chat. All right, so I think that's about it, gang. Again, do look over the materials, do familiarize yourself with like what we're doing and how we're doing it and when things are happening. And due dates are really important, right? Being organized, having your calendar all ready to roll is a great way to get started. So I think that'll do for now. If you have any questions, hit me up. Email, discussion, reach out. I'm here. All right. Peace. Let's have a great semester. Looking forward to meeting you all. Bye.